Hey, what's going on, game changers? I want to cover the spine a little bit. People are coming into my page and they want to know what's up and what am I doing? What is this ligamentum nuchae thing? How does it matter? Why does it matter? Let's get into this thing. So first of all, if you want to know how to do these things or learn these things, we have a number of ways. You can join the Freeborn Neck Protocol group. We teach a number of things in there, so join the group. We have an online course for $97. You can get the course. We have a 21-day challenge where we give you a mini course. That's the $21 21-day challenge. So we'll teach you how to get into the first few levels of Freeborn Neck Protocol. We have lots of ways. We have one-on-one coaching where you can hire me personally to work with you and guide you step by step online via Zoom, taking you through your situation specifically so we can teach you how to connect with your spine. So first of all, you're not going to hear a lot of people talking about this ligament. For some insane reason, I had to accidentally figure out this ligament and what it means to me and what it means to other people. In 2018, when dealing with advanced neuropathy down my arm and other issues that I didn't even know were related to this, but when I fixed this on myself, I had TMJ improve, the neuropathy went away, the shoulder stabilized tremendously, inhibited glutes got working right. The thing I noticed the most was my brain fog that I didn't even know I really had lifted. I had a lot of concussions playing high school football. And sure enough, when I opened up this humongous ligament, it made a massive difference in how my brain was working in organizing things, executive function. When looking at the spine, we need to take into account that the lumbar spine, thoracic spine, and cervical spine have important roles to play with each other. They each are responsible for a primary task, and as a whole, they work cohesively together. So each segment, lumbar, thoracic, cervical, does everything: forward flexion, back extension, side flexion, translation, rotation. So all of these things are in play with every segment of the spine. The lumbar spine needs to lead the charge at forward flexion, back extension. So bending over, picking something up, deadlifting something, what have you. Thoracic spine leads the charge at at side flexion and translation. It does rotation, it does forward flexion, back extension. However, it needs to lead the charge in this side flexion. It's hard for me to just purely side flex because I think that it's important that we overlap movement patterns and we articulate the thoracic spine. So I'm finding it interesting how my body is programmed right now. The cervical spine is most key with rotation. However, it's important that we learn that we articulate almost all the time. Now, the lumbar spine, a little not so much, but the thoracic spine. And I'm going to point out a couple things here. The serratus anterior, this muscle right here is of massive, massive importance. This muscle is the push muscle. It's a reaching muscle that drives and pulls your scapula around to form it to your back. This muscle does not really need to work on human beings because we stand. So unless you're intentionally getting this muscle to work, it's probably out to sleep. It's like it's not doing its job. This is the primary antagonist to all of these muscles, which are each attached to your ligamentum nuchae, upper traps, splenius capitis, rhomboid minor, serratus posterior superior. So when we're looking at these muscles, how many of you commonly are complaining about trigger points in your traps? You know, oh, your neck muscles don't work right. So you're trying all these different aspects of strengthening or bringing flexibility to your muscles, and they don't seem to respond. We cannot isolate these activities. We must cohesively bring in aspects of stabilization, mobilization, flexibility, strength, and power throughout the entire body, from the tips of your toes to the tips of your fingers and the tip of your nose. It's key. You can't just isolate a stretch here, a muscle there, a strengthening aspect there. It all has to be in play. We need the entire fascia network to be in play. It really comes down to fascia. Fascia is everywhere. So as we're looking at this activity, what are we going to do? As this thing went flying across the room on me. The primary exercise that is going to start you in this journey is the Northern Star pattern. This is the bread and butter 1A pattern of the human species. If you do not know how to do this pattern effectively, I highly recommend that you figure it out. We teach it in the group. We give it to you in the mini course for $21. We have FNP 2.0 online course, a $97 course that goes into great detail on this and 9 levels of other movement patterns that are going to get you right. Hire me as your coach. We have lots of ways for you to learn how to do these things and understand that your subconscious mind, which is your body, is dictating what you're doing. So it's difficult for people to see what they're unconsciously doing because it's subconscious, right? So when you have somebody who's able to point these things out to you while you're in real time doing these things and executing these things, it can make a massive difference in how you're able to get this done. Since this fell on the floor, I'm going to take this as an opportunity to say, this is ridiculous. Please avoid this type of ridiculousness. And I know this is an aggressive traction effort, but we have the Denny roll, which can be okay if it's used meticulously correctly. The Denny roll can be okay. But when we start talking about this type of activity where you're bending your neck backwards because you feel that it's important to fix your spine. Here's my spine in 2017. You can see it's not just military spine. It actually is forward flexing. It's a forward curve. This was really the reasoning behind all of my blackout concussions playing high school football. Blackout on the field. What are we doing here? 20 plays would go by. I have no memory of anything. And then I finally come to in the huddle and wonder, oh my gosh, what happened for the last 30 minutes of the game? And I would have no idea. Now, I'm not saying that I have a perfect spine, but I took another x-ray in 2021 after creating these patterns. If you take a close look, you can kind of see it. See how the spine is beginning to straighten? It's starting to pull itself into extension. Now, I don't really want to go out and get another x-ray to see where it's at, but I can feel that my spinal curve continues to improve, because when you look at the nuchal ligament, it is like a bow and arrow, or it's like a bow, I should say, not necessarily like an arrow. So when you start looking at these guys here, let me match up this curve, right? When you start looking at this, here's a bow with no string, no strings attached. We string up the bow, so it takes this stick, which is actually curved this way, and it bends it back into this curve. Here it's a nice functional tool. Here it's a stick, which I guess we can still use it for something, but here it's a tool. Now, what's happening here is the string is allowing for this tension to come into play. I can't tell you how many people say, I've got they have a military spine, they've got a forward cervical curve, they've lost lordosis of their spine, they don't have a curve in their spine. The reason is because they have effectively unstrung their bow. They don't string their bow with their nuchal ligament. The nuchal ligament, the ligamentum nuchae, is the force that pulls us into spinal extension. Every tip of each spinous process is connected to the nuchal ligament, and it connects to the back of the head. The entire neck of a horse is a nuchal ligament. Dogs have nuchal ligaments. Fast four-legged animals predominantly have nuchal ligaments. It's the nuchal ligament that allows us to stabilize our skull and stabilize our neck. When we get into poor postural mechanics, we lose the functionality of the nuchal ligament. Dr. Daniel Lieberman from Harvard University has probably done some of the best work on this that I've seen. And what he's found was in studying indigenous tribes, they have functional nuchal ligaments. So the back of their neck is working properly. And because of that, their muscularity in their body and how their body is performing is working at a completely different level versus modern man, who we're sitting all the time. We're wearing, modern shoes. We're not using our bodies. We're looking down at our phones all the time. And the nuchal ligament is devolving. This is what Dr. Lieberman says, and I agree with him. Now, what he asks you to do is to run barefooted, and he believes that if you run barefooted, here are the 5 kinetic chains, running barefooted will stimulate enough activity up your body in order to get your nuchal ligament to work right. I think that that's a little aggressive. Most people I work with and know, if I ask them to go out and start running barefooted, they would destroy themselves. So what we do is we do this as a infant development pattern. If you remember back if you've had kids, when your child was so small that as you're holding them, when they're hours old, days old, a couple weeks old, you're holding their head to hold the infant, or you're lying them down flat on their back. Well, it doesn't take long, but all of a sudden they can hold up their head. You're like, oh my gosh, this little infant of mine is now able to hold up their head on their own. So that's a developmental phase. Well, what's happening in those first weeks of life is the infant is figuring out how to activate and develop strength in their nuchal ligament, amongst other things. They're growing and their entire body is developing. But what they're getting is this ability to get this nuchal ligament when you're lying down on your back and you're intelligently getting the back of your head to touch the floor. You can put a nice little light intensity into the nuchal ligament. And then when you're holding different isometric actions, stimulating the muscles, because you can control these things with thought, you can now begin to balance out the power of your neck and literally impact your entire body. So with Freeborn Neck Protocol, we start on the floor, working from the back. We get you up onto your hands and knees like an infant would. We work you from the hands and knees progressions. We work you to standing. 4th toes, big toes, those 4th toes. If this is my foot, we need the 4th toe mechanism right here to be our primary contact point when we're walking. We want to swagger when we're walking, so we get this undulation that brings us into our spiral mechanics. You can't isolate this stuff, folks. It's got to be holistic, and not just movement discipline holistic, but your thoughts and your breathing. This is the breathing apparatus, and this is where we start with movement. This is the intrinsic kinetic chain from the pelvic floor, diaphragm of the ribs, intercostals of the ribs, the 8 tongue muscles, cranial muscles, you name it, multifidus muscles up the spine, which are the zipper muscles of the spine, transversus, abdominis. So holistic thinking, breathing, hydration. What are you feeding yourself? What are you drinking? Are you a coffee addict? Are you drinking sodas? Are you drinking all sorts of unhealthy things? What kind of water are you drinking? What are you eating? What are your foods? Movement patterns, that's where I come in. That's the 5. And then rest. How are you resting? We need holistic efforts to get this thing done. So I think that's the overview. I'm going to leave it at that. If you want to figure out what this means for you, you want to meet with me, first of all, you got to watch this entire video first and have your questions prepared. We'll take 20 minutes together, sit down on Zoom. I'll answer a few of your questions. We'll figure out if we're a good fit for one-on-one coaching, and I'll guide you through and teach you how to connect with your body, make your body more intelligent, 1% stronger a day. But get the course. It's only $97. Do the challenge. It's $21. We've got tons of free information in the FNP group. We literally have an endless amount of stuff that you can do. What's up, Rodney Drury? My brother, you got this thing. Thanks for watching, Jill. Thanks for being in here. If you're in here, Say hi, give me a little what's up. Peace, love. I'm a dove.